Welcome back to the Health with Hashimoto's podcast. Today, I have a guest for you, Dr. Jen Mann. Let me tell you about Dr. Jen Mann. She is a naturopathic doctor. She's the founder of Nova Wellness in the San Francisco Bay Area. She has spent over 15 years working in both conventional and integrative medicine. She has helped thousands of people uncover the root causes of their symptoms so they can truly heal. Her passion for this work comes from her own story, years of exhaustion, anxiety, and brain fog that eventually led to a diagnosis of Hashimoto's and endometriosis. And then when she was told both were incurable, she refused to accept that as her fate. Instead, she discovered holistic medicine, and now she helps others do the same. Welcome, Dr. Jen. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, so I'm a naturopathic doctor of Nova Wellness in San Francisco. And yes, exactly what you said. I got into this work because of my own experience with not feeling well for so many years. And as you've described in your other podcasts too, this whole journey of wanting to feel good, knowing that I could feel good deep down, there's something in me that always knew I wasn't fated to feel terrible and just push through, that there's something more for me. And following that has really informed me in my work, in how I work with clients, my purpose in being here, and the message that I want people to have of the possibility of living into a higher level of existence for themselves and for the people around them.
Yeah. Were you already a doctor when you got your diagnoses?
I was just starting to, so I before I did naturopathic work, I was an environmental scientist at EPA, and I wanted to work more directly with people. And I just felt a calling to be a naturopathic doctor. Like I fell in love with the philosophy of the medicine, something to it spoke so deeply in me. And at the time, I was just pushing through in my life. Like I just was kind of figured this is just how it is for me. I'm a very willful person. I just kept pushing through. And then my first year of naturopathic medical school, we had to go see a naturopathic doctor as part of our training. So I went in and saw someone and told them how I'd been struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts and brain fog and fatigue for many years. They tested my thyroid, and then it came back with a TSH around 3, which is a very middle of the range TSH. And they're like, think there's more to this. Asked me to get my antibodies done. I did, and they came back positive. And I kind of couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that in a way I had tricked myself into thinking I was fine on some level. And then here was like validation, like, oh, there was more to it than just me pushing through or just me working on my mindset or going to therapy or taking an antidepressant. Like there was something really physical happening. And I was like, oh, this explains a lot.
Right. Instead of being like struggling with all of those different symptoms, you were able to say, oh, there's more I can do. And you attacked one thing. So, how soon after figuring out that you had Hashimoto's, how soon were you able to turn things around?
I mean, that really awakened a whole thing in me because I had on my mom's side of the family, there's a ton of autoimmune disease. So rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis. And I saw what happens to people with these illnesses and the discomfort and the disability that happens over time. And then here I was with seeing these antibodies, and I was like, oh, wow, okay, I see where that path goes. That's not the path I want for myself. And even within the naturopathic community, I was told like this is something you just have to live with. So even in holistic medicine, you can get messages. I think there's importance of always tuning to yourself and knowing what's possible for you. And then I started down the road, but it took quite a while to sort through, honestly. I implemented certain things, but I didn't notice much of a difference from an elimination diet in the beginning, from implementing um, very basic lifestyle changes that I was doing. It was a longer road for me, and I had to keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper, even into my clinical care, in discovering what was working for people as I started treating people in my own practice, and starting to do those things on me. So it was a quite a long road for me, of putting all the different root cause and pieces together.
Right. I completely understand that. And I think a lot of women with Hashimoto's and men are in that same place. They just feel like they keep digging deeper and there's more layers and more pieces of the puzzle to put together. And that can lead to a lot of overwhelm. And then it also leads to feeling like you need to do every single thing perfect. Like if I don't get all of those puzzle pieces correctly identified and correctly addressed, then things aren't going to work. How did you address that for yourself? And how do you address that for your patients? That feeling of overwhelm and perfection.
I think one of the biggest tools in this journey is having an attitude of curiosity. So, what can I discover about myself? Oh, if I do this, what do I notice in my body or in my being? Oh, for me, at first, it was like just getting off antidepressants was a huge deal. Um, and things that people told me I could not, I'd have to be on that medication forever. So, celebrating little victories that are actually really big victories as you go along, um, and being curious and trying to bring some enjoyment to the process, I think is incredibly helpful.
Yes. Yeah. Celebrating the small wins and
Hmm.
not looking at all of the things, but just the next thing in front of you.
What's
Yeah.
the next piece that wants to open? What's the next thing that I'm curious about and drawn to? And not everyone, I tell people too that not everyone gets to go on this journey. This is a very specific learning in life that not everyone will have. And to me, it's this deeper journey of how can I heal? What is it to have a human body? What is it, this flesh and all these biochemicals and all these processes that are going on? Not everyone's going to get to learn about health, about their body as deeply as you are if you're on this journey. And there's something really powerful about that, something really exciting, curious, um, that is its own way of moving through life and a learning that other people won't have.
Yeah. So instead of like having this angst about having the diagnosis, you're saying let's flip it around and be grateful because now we get to learn, explore, and be curious. I love that perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I always tell people too, it's like this illness was leading me toward to a better life. The more I've gotten my health online and my stress under control, and it's shifted my outlook and my understanding of life and diet and movement and the gut and hormones and there's so much that it's taught me and created in me too. So I didn't come to this right away.
Yeah.
This is not a immediate, there's it's not to ignore the suffering or the difficulty or the challenge, but there can be an attitude that's a little bit bigger or more holistic in holding yourself on this journey. Places there can be gratitude, there's learning, there's openings, and leaning into those is really useful.
Right. So when somebody comes to see you and they have a new diagnosis of Hashimoto's, where do you start with all of those different things?
Hmm. And I know you speak to this in your course and your, of course, in your podcast too, is looking at root causes. So we know that thyroid issues show up as certain symptoms like the sluggishness or anxiety or depression or constipation or low metabolism. But with Hashimoto's in particular, we know that this is actually an immune issue. This is an autoimmune issue. And so we want to treat it on the level of the immune system, not just chasing symptoms with the medication, which can help, but to really get to those root causes of what's creating that immune and autoimmunity issue and really going through the process with each person of what's the root cause for you. And with everyone, pretty much everyone, we start with food.
Okay.
If you're eating foods that are activating your immune system day to day, hour to hour, we're all eating all the time, it's really hard to get ahead.
Yeah.
So, getting the food piece first, figuring out your food intolerances to me is critical to start stabilizing everything.
When you're working on food, do you do start with an elimination diet or do you start with like the microbiome? How do you like take that? Because if you just say, let's look at your diet, immediately people are like, oh my goodness, that's huge. Like the overwhelm can set in. How do you make it easy?
Yeah. So also when we're working with people in root cause, we're looking at one thing at a time. So there can be a habit like I want to work on the gut and the hormones and my thyroid medication and the nutrients and food all at the same time. And that is overwhelming. And I also find it's not how the body actually heals. I think the body likes bite-sized chunks too. When you do it more slowly too, you can start to notice the impact more deeply in your own body. So if you're changing up five things at a time, which is not only overwhelming, but I think it actually works better to go one piece at a time so you feel your connection with what you're doing. You can notice the impact, and then you get to carry that forward in terms of like, oh, these are the things that really work for me or don't work for me.
Yes.
So when we're doing an elimination diet, we're generally that's the only thing we're focused on in the moment. Sometimes we're gathering labs or other things at the same time, but the elimination diet is its own thing. I say it's like a rite of passage. It's we want to do it kind of once and do it well. So you have that information moving forward. And we'll generally have people take out the major food tolerances for a couple weeks and then add one thing back in at a time, one thing every few days. So you can feel
Okay.
the impact. So it takes people about 4 to 6 weeks to do. And if that feels too hard, we have people just take one thing out at a time and then test it. Take another thing out for a couple of weeks and then test it. So there's always ways that you can play with it and make it more doable.
That is good to know. When you take one thing out, if they're going to do that, or, even the full elimination diet, do you take it out for 4 weeks and then retest, or what is your protocol?
So let's say you're like, hey, I want to explore gluten intolerance. You take the gluten out fully for 2 weeks and then test. Have a few
Okay.
servings in a day and then monitor over the next 3 days.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a very hard step. I know when I was first told
Mhm.
elimination diet, I was I was very resistant. I did not want to change my diet and I was scared. Like I don't know what I'm going to eat because you're restricting all of these things, but it's very, very helpful. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think doing it in community, like we have group classes and different um, ways of people connecting as they're going through it so that there's other support. When I went through all this, I was in school and I had this amazing group of friends and we were all exploring our health together. So we would share recipes and cook and we all did an elimination diet at the same time. So it actually became more fun.
That's awesome.
Fun is another key to this. Like, oh, what foods are there that I can eat? What recipes have I never tried before that I can try? What is it like to go to the farmer's market and just buy a bunch of food from there and learn how to cook different vegetables? So again, that like element of playfulness and curiosity and enjoyment helps a lot.
Yes. How would you say stress and chronic burnout affect the hormones and the thyroid function?
Yeah, so there's kind of a maybe even a personality profile of people with Hashimoto's, myself included, can be very driven, perfectionistic, often really caring, um, carry a sense of responsibility. And I love this population. I love us. I love people like us. And but that the shadow side of that is that it can be perfectionistic. It can go to burnout, sometimes not attuned to what we really need to keep ourselves at the center, self-love. And so there is this how do we work these things to our advantage? How do we go through the process of our healing in a way that doesn't keep us in the perfectionistic or the overwhelm or the overdrive that led us to this place to begin with?
Yeah. Any big tips for that? I completely agree. That is the profile that I fit into and that I have seen a lot with my clients too.
Hmm. A big one to get support. whether that's a coach, whether that's a support group, whether that's working with a naturopathic doctor or functional medicine doctor, partnering with someone and learning to receive support is incredibly helpful.
Yes. Yeah. And I love the fact that you did that elimination diet in the community too. So getting the professional support and also building a community of support, both ways to do that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And people around you that are wanting to create something different. This idea that these illnesses are incurable or untreatable is just totally wrong. So make sure you're also around people with that mindset and that desire to that things can change, that you can be different, that your body can be different, um, to keep
Yeah,
yourself.
can you talk more about that? Because that is the message that we get from so many different fronts that Hashimoto's, if you have it, you are a lifelong pharmaceutical patient. You're just going
Mhm.
to have to get lab work every once in a while and adjust your dose of medication. And sometimes I feel like we have to hear the opposite side, the true side to that to counteract it. So, yeah, share that message.
Yeah, so in conventional medicine, really what they're offering you in terms of treatments, in terms of testing, is what fits into that medical model. And that would be a specific diagnosis equates with a specific medication. And so all the diagnostics, all the treatments are in that paradigm that there has to be a medication to treat the illness. And there's very little look at education, at lifestyle changes. It's pretty much medication disease management model. And what's different in the holistic realm, naturopathic, functional medicine, is this idea that you as an individual are unique, that these illnesses are reversible, that there are techniques to do that through not just medication management, but through making lifestyle changes, changes to your diet, and looking at where did this come from to begin with. You probably weren't born with this. This isn't a congenital thing. This is something that came on. And we know in our society that this is becoming more and more common. And that says something too, that there is some element of our environment that is activating this in us. So just as it can be activated, it can be deactivated. And that's what the healing process is. That's what all these looking at root cause, like you talk about, is so important. If you can address things at these root cause, you can not only make your thyroid feel better, but straighten out the immune system that caused this to begin with. And then you're reversing the illness. So when I started, my antibodies were in the 300s. Now they're non detectable. I have another client. She started with me. Her antibodies were well over 1,000, very active antibodies. And 3 years later, non-detect. So what's this is normal in my world, in my practice, that you see antibodies go down over time, that the disease becomes reversed, and that you just feel better and better and better.
I love that. Thank you for sharing those stories. There is hope. There is hope.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yes.
just as much as your body can go out of balance, it can come back into balance.
What is a like what is a timeline that somebody could be looking at for healing? We know that you didn't get to this spot overnight. But I think we live in a microwave society. We want to see the results instantly. What's a realistic timeline for healing?
So in my practice, we'll start with like an elimination diet. We'll start to look at nutrients. We'll order out blood work, get some gut tests going. So I'd expect at the 3 month mark for people to start noticing something. Maybe their energy is starting to get better, the brain fog is starting to clear, maybe their gut is starting to feel a bit better. Like there's something shifting in them at the 3 month mark. And then I see people really start to take off at the 6 month, 9 month, 1 year mark. Antibodies, I find, trail this. So you might start feeling better, but the antibodies are still there. And I really notice a change in the immune system when you can get to like the 2 year, the 3 year mark of really taking care of your body and addressing root cause. So there is a bit of like a just being totally honest and realistic here. So people know it can feel very slow, But in the reality of what you're doing, of actually changing your immune system and your health in this deep way, that's actually very fast.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't feel fast in the moment,
Mhm.
but it is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And it can
thank you.
happen faster. It
Yeah.
can. But typically that's pretty typical what I see.
That is really good to know because now people who are listening, they're hearing the message that if they don't feel better next month, and if
Mm.
their antibodies aren't down on the very next lab draw, it's not that they're failing, they're on the journey. And this is to be expected. They have some time to work with.
Yes, and all that time that you're working on improving things, you're also not getting worse. So there's like a double improvement, right? There's like, we think like, oh, if I wasn't doing this, I would just stay the same. That's generally not true. If you're not doing this, you would probably be getting worse. So you're getting kind of a double improvement with that. And to know that as you heal, there is a natural up and down to it. So healing is not linear. It's not a straight line. I go from here to here. As you're going, you're probably going to be going up and down in how you feel, but the amount of time that you feel bad will generally be less. The amount of time that you flare can shorten or be less frequent. And so to also mindset wise to not look at this as like a I'm better or I'm not, but allow yourself to assess the gradients that you're better. Again, look for those victories like, oh, I flared, but I didn't flare for as long. Oh, I was tired today, but I actually had a few hours this morning. I felt clear and good. Those are all things that you want to let into your system is like, yeah, I am improving. The more you can let that in, the more the body and the nervous system get used to that as a normal, and will do that more and more frequently.
Yes. Yes, very good. So um, tell us a little bit about how people can connect with you. You are a naturopath and you work in California, right?
Yeah, we're in the San Francisco Bay Area, so we work with clients in California. So if you are wanting to connect one-on-one, if you're looking for a provider to work with in that more tailored care, we do that and we offer a free discovery call. You'll have the link, I know, in your
Yep, in the show notes.
in the show notes. Great. And you can just click there and we can have a conversation and see if working together would be a good fit.
Awesome. Do you do in-person visits in California or you telehealth or a mix?
Yeah, we have a hybrid practice. So if you are in San Francisco or nearby, we can meet in person. But if you're anywhere in California, we can meet with you virtually.
Awesome. Awesome. And the last question, if there's one thing you want somebody to take away from our conversation today, what is that one message that you want them to remember?
Hmm. Stay with it. Like really, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And stay with it and get support so that you can stay on that path and keep moving forward.
Yeah. Dr. Jen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and sharing this message of hope and the timeline and practical strategies. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me. Great to be with you.
Yeah. All right. Here is our standard disclaimer. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Please discuss any questions or concerns with your healthcare professional.